This narrative follows Andy Dufresne, a banker from a prominent financial institution. He is sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of his wife and her lover, and subsequently sent to Shawshank Prison, a facility from which no inmate has ever escaped. Within this prison, many inmates have spent their entire lives incarcerated. Upon his arrival, Andy realizes that the world outside has drastically changed, and the prison's rules are exceedingly strict. Any attempt to escape or misconduct results in severe punishment. For a long time, Andy remains silent and isolated until he encounters a fellow inmate named Red, who has been imprisoned for 20 years and possesses the ability to procure items from the outside world. Andy requests a hammer and a large poster of an actress, to which Red inquires if he intends to tunnel out of prison with a hammer. Andy cryptically assures him that he will understand once the hammer arrives. Red cautions Andy about 3 inmates who have taken an interest in him. Following Andy's request, Red acquires the hammer, but he doubts its effectiveness for tunneling, believing it would take centuries. In truth, Andy has a passion for stone carving, which is the reason for his request. The hammer is delivered to Andy, and soon after, the 3 inmates with ill intentions seize the opportunity to assault him. This pattern of abuse continues for the next 2 years, with Andy enduring the physical and emotional toll in silence. His body marked with bruises and his expression one of profound resignation. Eventually, a group of inmates, including Red and Andy, is selected to repair the prison roof. Hadley is the one in charge and appears somewhat distressed as he informs his companions that his brother earned $30,000 in his name. However, he believes this amount is futile since it will all be taken by the government in taxes. Andy and his friends overhear this, and Andy approaches Hadley to inquire whether he trusts his wife. This question angers Hadley, prompting him to seize him and bring him to the edge of the terrace. Just as he is about to throw him off, Andy interjects, explaining that the government allows individuals to gift up to $60,000 to their spouses throughout their lifetime without incurring any taxes. He offers to assist with this process at no charge, requesting only 3 beers for his friends in return. The following day, Andy's friends are seen enjoying beers on the terrace, indicating that Andy has successfully helped Hadley. A few days later, the film is screened for all the inmates in the prison, and as Andy exits the viewing room, he is ambushed by 3 men who repeatedly assault him. They drag him back to the room where the movie is being shown, intending to attack him again. However, Andy retaliates, striking them on the head, which leads to a severe beating that results in his hospitalization for a month. The assailant responsible for Andy's injuries is subsequently confined to a dungeon for a week. Upon returning to his cell, he encounters the same officer who had previously beaten Andy, leaving him permanently disabled after a brutal assault. Days later, the prison warden arrives to search the cell. The search is merely a pretext. His officer informed him of how Andy managed to save $30,000 in taxes, which is why he wishes to meet Andy. Andy possesses a Bible, which he holds with great faith. Within Andy's cell, there are photographs of various actors, along with a prominent poster of one actor. The warden admits that while he typically does not permit such items, he occasionally overlooks this rule. Surprisingly, the warden fails to retrieve the hammer that Andy ordered from Red. After leaving, the warden returns moments later, holding Andy's Bible, and tells him that there is salvation within it. Impressed by Andy, the warden invites him to his office and appoints him as an assistant librarian. An elderly man who has managed the library for many years will supervise Andy, who will also begin completing the ITR for other offices. As time progresses, Andy's responsibilities increase, necessitating the need for an assistant, whom he chooses to be his close friend, Red. Time passes slowly, and one day, the librarian under whom Andy works threatens a man with a knife. Although the government has commuted his sentence, he is reluctant to leave prison, having spent 50 years there. This prison has become his true world, and he believes that if he commits murder, his punishment will be extended, allowing him to remain incarcerated. However, with encouragement from Andy and Red, the elderly librarian Brooks ultimately decides to release the man he had threatened. After his release, Brooks feels disoriented by the rapid changes in the outside world over the past 50 years. Where there once were few cars, now there is a bustling mass of vehicles. Unable to adapt to this fast-paced life, Brooks tragically takes his own life. Meanwhile, the warden initiates a new program within the prison. The program is titled, In Out. This initiative involves the release of inmates from prison to engage in work, allowing them to learn the value of earning money through diligent effort. However, this program also benefits the warden, who secures numerous contracts due to the low cost of prison labor. The warden profits significantly, but these earnings are funneled to a man named Black, who assists him in this scheme. They fabricate documents in the name of Randall Stevens, a fictitious individual, to transfer the funds to his account. This way, if law enforcement investigates, they will be searching for a person who never existed. A new inmate named Tommy arrives at the facility. He is quite young and has been incarcerated in various districts. Upon discovering that Andy has aided many individuals, Tommy approaches him, expressing his desire to complete his high school education so that he can lead a better life with his wife and child upon his release. Andy agrees to help him. One day, Tommy speaks with Red, inquiring about Andy's intelligence and why he is imprisoned. Red explains that Andy was convicted for the murder of his wife and her lover, who was a prominent banker. Tommy is initially taken aback but soon finds himself in front of Andy and Red, recounting a story from a previous prison where he met an inmate who had attempted to rob a house at night. The homeowner awoke and was shot, along with his wife. It was later revealed that the couple were not married but were involved in an affair, and the woman was the spouse of a wealthy banker who was wrongfully imprisoned for the murder of both individuals. Upon learning this, Andy approaches the warden, but the warden chooses to dismiss his claims. Andy is the individual who transforms his illicit funds into legitimate ones. He is privy to all of his secrets and subtly threatens him by stating that he will keep his financial dealings confidential. This provokes the warden, who subsequently confines him to a dungeon for a month. Additionally, Tommy, whose testimony could exonerate Andy, is shot by the warden. The warden then approaches Andy, claiming that Tommy attempted to escape, which is a fabrication. Aware of the warden's deceit, Andy declares that he will no longer assist him. The warden retorts that she will remain in the dungeon for an additional month, a duration unprecedented in its length. After enduring 2 full months in confinement, Andy is finally released, and Red greets him. Andy inquires if Red believes he will ever escape from prison, to which Red responds that perhaps it will only happen when he is too old and mentally diminished. Andy then expresses his intention to leave for Zihuatanejo, a picturesque coastal location in Mexico known for its ability to help individuals rediscover themselves. He envisions opening a restaurant there, repairing a boat on the beach, and fishing with friends in the open sea, which disheartens Red. Red warns that hope can be a perilous thing, driving a person to madness, and advises Andy to return to reality, emphasizing the distance to Mexico. Andy acknowledges the truth in Red's words, stating that he now faces 2 choices: to live in despair or to die. Before departing, Andy asks Red to promise him one thing, to which Red agrees. Andy instructs him about a vast field in Buxton, where a large tree stands near a stone wall. He mentions that a black stone on that wall conceals something buried beneath it. He urges Red to visit that tree once he is released. When Red inquires about what lies beneath the stone, Andy cryptically replies that Red must go there to find out. With that, Andy proceeds to fulfill his obligations to the warden. Upon completing his duties, the warden securely stores all his documents in a designated safe. After placing the documents inside, he hands his clothes to Andy, instructing him that they should be pressed and that his shoes should gleam like a mirror. Subsequently, Andy returns to his cell, while Red feels particularly distressed that evening, harboring doubts about Andy's ability to survive. The following morning, when the cell doors are unlocked, Andy does not emerge from his cell. When the guard approaches, he is taken aback. The warden, preparing to wear his shoes, discovers that the box contains Andy's shoes instead. Suddenly, a siren blares, signaling a prison escape. The warden rushes to Andy's cell, where Red is also summoned. The warden inquires about Andy's whereabouts, to which Red responds, "How would I know?" This infuriates the warden, who exclaims about the ghost that vanished overnight, leaving behind only a stone and an endless image on the wall. He begins to hurl the stones in his hand towards the wall, striking a poster, yet the stone does not fall. Instead, it passes through the poster. When the warden investigates, he discovers that Andy has excavated a substantial tunnel behind it. The sight astonishes everyone, as the wall is remarkably sturdy, making it nearly impossible to tunnel through without machinery. However, Andy has achieved the extraordinary feat of escaping. The guards then proceed to the location from which Andy emerged, where they find his old clothes, soap, a comb, and the hammer that Red had given him 2 decades prior. This very hammer was the tool Andy had used to tunnel through the prison wall over the past 20 years, discreetly pocketing the soil he excavated and scattering it on the ground. During Andy's last employment with the warden, he retained all documents related to the warden's illicit finances. He concealed these documents within his Bible, which he subsequently placed in the warden's cell vault, unbeknownst to the warden. Additionally, the warden entrusted Andy with his clothing for pressing. Andy discreetly wore them beneath his own attire, along with the shoes given to him for polishing. As night fell and the prison lights extinguished, Andy emerged from the tunnel. He then broke into the gutter pipe, crawling through it to escape the prison, a feat no other inmate had accomplished before. The gutter pipe he traversed spanned the equivalent of 2 football fields. The following morning, Andy visited the bank where the warden's illicit funds were stored, held in the name of a deceased individual. Andy had previously signed documents on behalf of this person while incarcerated. Armed with all necessary paperwork, he successfully withdrew the entire sum of $2.95 million, thus securing not only his freedom but also considerable wealth. Furthermore, Andy possessed documents detailing the warden's illegal activities, which he submitted to the press. The next day, this story made headlines. When the warden accessed his safe, he discovered not his documents but rather the Bible. On the first page, Andy had inscribed, "You were right, salvation is in this." Upon flipping to a specific page, the warden noticed a hammer mark, revealing that Andy had cut the page into the shape of a hammer to conceal his tool. This incident harkened back to when the warden first visited Andy's cell 20 years prior, taking the Bible from him and returning it, with Andy's hand still hidden within its pages. The warden's true nature was now exposed, prompting the police to move in for his arrest. However, before they could apprehend him, the warden took his own life. Eventually, Andy's friend Red also had his sentence commuted. He secures employment, yet Red appears emotionally detached due to his 40 years of incarceration. Residing in the same room as librarian Brooks, Red contemplates suicide until he recalls the promise he made to Andy. He then ventures to a vast meadow featuring a large tree and a stone wall, where he discovers a black stone. Upon lifting the stone, he finds a box containing money and a letter from Andy. The letter prompts Red to remember the name of the place Andy mentioned during their time in prison. Andy's message expresses his anticipation for Red's arrival, stating that hope is a powerful force, one that endures. Eventually, Red arrives at the seaside location, where he spots Andy repairing his boat, a scene that embodies the dream they shared in prison. Although Red once believed hope to be detrimental, he acknowledges that it may indeed be the most valuable aspect of life, as it enabled Andy to achieve his aspirations, including the construction of a tunnel over 2 decades.